Good afternoon from Dehradun. I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. So, how many of you walk around feeling deeply unworthy within? If you remember my last video, when I met the man in the colony and he flashed that book with Babaji on the cover, my first thought was, I'm not worthy of Babaji. So before I get into today's offering, which is Babaji's blessing, I want to bring you to that thought that I had of I'm not worthy. Because these last 5 years, the shift that's been taking place within me is to move from I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, to I am enough as I am. And in my decade plus in the field of healing, I have yet to meet a person who doesn't carry this core wound of unworthiness. Majority of us are walking around with this core wound active, and I am not enough and unworthiness manifests in many ways, in overcompensation, in overgiving, in a lack of boundaries, in not feeling deserving of good things. In any aspect of life, not feeling that you are worthy of those things, that you need to change yourself, that you need to be someone else, that you need to become someone or something else to be worthy. We have industries that run on the wound of unworthiness. I know for me, 30 years or more of my life, this was a core wound always active in the background, and it impacted every aspect of my life. There was no aspect that was not painted by this unworthiness. But for anybody who goes through an awakening, who comes into remembrance, or even in your life's journey, moving into that state of I am enough is definitely going to be a part of the journey, because when we look around and we see chaos in the world, one of the wounds that this chaos stems from is the I am not enough. That inherent feeling of not being good enough or worthy as we are, as the divine intended. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. And I'm going to reveal today who was the master who was plotting and planning to make his arrival when I was up in Binsur. So I woke up that morning after that very intense Kundalini activation, and I sensed the presence of a master around me. They didn't make themselves known at that point, so I went on a beautiful forest walk. I got a glimpse of Nanda Devi. She winked at me. And upon returning from that hike, I sat down and I went into what can only be described as a Zen coma. I was so relaxed. I was so relaxed that it felt almost like being stoned, actually is probably a better word, being stoned. And I remember I was telling my aunt, please pull me to the breakfast table. I can't even get up to walk this 1 meter distance. I was in such a state of relaxation. Anyways, we proceed to have a delicious breakfast, and afterwards I thought, let me have a snooze, since I had all that activity happening the night before. So right before I go for the snooze, the manager of the estate comes and we're talking. And my bestie had told me the night before, he said, Sim, I received a guidance from you. Go and ask someone if there is the cave of a saint there, or of a Pir Baba, the tomb of a Pir Baba. So I asked her, and Sunanda looked at me, And when she looked at me, a very odd thing happened, and I knew she was channeling, because at first it was her energy and then there was a switch. And suddenly she looked at me and she looked in my eyes and she was like, yes, Simran, there is a place here, but I think the place you're talking about is Babaji's cave. And Babaji's cave is about 3 or 4 hours away from here. And you know, the way that he communicates with people is that he will come to you in a dream and he will give you information and he will call you to visit him in his visit his cave in Dunagiri. And then she snapped out of it and she said, yes, Simran, the place that you're talking about, I will take you to that place during sunset and we can meet there for sunset drinks. So I said, okay. And then I went and I proceeded to take my snooze. So I lay down on the daybed outside and it was very still, you know, and just as I lay down and I closed my eyes, I felt the wind. The wind started blowing and the leaves were rustling. And it really, if I had to describe it, it was as if the wind was signaling somebody's arrival. That's how it was. A moment before it had been pure stillness and suddenly there was all this motion, you know? So my eyes were still closed. The wind is swirling and moving all around me. And with my eyes closed, I suddenly see a leopard in energy form walking towards me and it bangs onto my energy field. So I got up and I said, okay, am I sleeping the wrong way? And then when I turned the other way and as soon as I shut my eyes, Babaji arrived. For those who are not familiar, Mahavtarbabaji is known as the Param Guru, the Guru of all the Gurus, beyond religion, beyond sex. He goes beyond that, and he is the one who guides the Guru or the great masters for every cycle, for every yoga, for every incarnation, basically, as for what is required for the evolution of humanity at that time. Some people experience him as Shiva himself. Others may have met him in Autobiography of a Yogi. He was Paramahansa Yogananda's guru's guru. You may have met Babaji already. You may just not have realized it, but maybe today you'll make that connection. So anyways, when I closed my eyes, there appeared Babaji in front of me, and I could see that he was transmitting to me from somewhere in the Himalayas. My first I was in shock because I couldn't believe it. Second, I had to test, was he an entity? Was he a ghost or a spirit? And third, I kept asking him the question, why are you here? I asked him about 3 times. And he's very patient, so 3 times he responded to me, you are my child, you are my child, you are my child. And so this initial transmission lasted about an hour, and I was woozy after that. And then in the evening, I went, and the place which my friend had seen in the guidance for me was very much there in Binsur. So I went to that cave and I paid my respects to the energy that aligned me to be there. Now after this, I went back down to Delhi, and Babaji's presence remained with me for about 8 days. And I could see him with my eyes open. I could see him. I would see him next to me. Sometimes I would be watching TV or the screen and he would show up, and I would be pulled into not asleep, but that state where you're not awake, but you're not asleep. And he would start transmitting. He would transmit. At that time, I did not know what he was transmitting. I did not know that a lot of knowledge was being downloaded into me, basically, that would emerge as my journey unfolded when I was at the awareness to receive that. But those seeds were being planted. On the last night that he was with me, as I was going to sleep, he appeared and he transferred fire from his third eye into my third eye. and he showed me a lifetime that I'd had with him. And all I remember is I could feel the fire traveling down to my sacral. After that, I have no memory. The next morning when I woke up, I could feel that he was gone. I could no longer feel his presence around me. I had an upset stomach, so I think he helped me with some clearing. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this trip to go to Gomukh, to the glacier where the mouth of the Ganga is, arrived in my reality. So I knew that this was his blessing, something was being unlocked for me. And of course, when we go to any of these sacred places, sacred sites, we have to understand that they're sacred because there is a convergence of energy points in these places. The energies are very heightened. Consciousness is very accessible, and divine consciousness, high frequency consciousness is very accessible in a lot of these places because of the ley lines, because of the way that the portals of energy and how the energy is distributed there, and how you can align yourself to that energy and receive downloads, transmissions, realign your energetic field. So I think I'm not going to make this a long video because the next one is going to be a little more exciting. But that is how Babaji blessed me up in Binsur. And really it was the turning point. It was the next milestone, if you will, on the journey, because of what ensued after that. And the other thing I want to mention is that none of these experiences are truly mine. I would say they are gifts, but they are for everyone, because you don't awaken for yourself. There's no such thing as individual awakening, even though it is this body experiencing the awakening process and this jeev, but actually awakening is for the entire collective. It is for everyone. So anybody who goes through an awakening journey, it is not for the I, for the individual. It is for the whole. And what I feel, my understanding till now, is no knowledge, no experience belongs to you. It is what it is, knowledge, experience, and wisdom, but it is to be shared. It is to be shared because more and more people are going to be going or experiencing awakening. And through the stories, through the sharing, the energy of the masters is here, the energy of divinity is here. There is a transmission that is happening energetically. It's not always only about the literal words. There's something much deeper happening on the subtle realms. So anyways, all the blessings to everyone. I hope you have a great weekend, and we shall continue on with our story later on about what happened after Babaji's Diksha, after the transmission of the sacred fire. Okay, all my love to all of you.